Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another weekly episode of Everything Vaguely Paranormal. Everything Vaguely Paranormal. Let me try that again. Wow, I haven't butchered our name in a long time. As always, I am Blake Smith, and with me are my partners in the paranormal, Miss Shelley Pruitt and Mr. Ryan Roberts. How are y'all doing?
Dude, I'm doing good. I love the trailer. The Euronymous Bosch paintings are always fun to look at, so I'm pretty excited about tonight.
I'm ready for you to talk about my boyfriend and his minions.
I
dressed the part. I have on my red and my red lipstick and even my red eyeshadow because you can't be looking all rumpled whenever you're, addressing the troops. So
not the truth. Well, this is a place that you have visited very many times. We do understand it. It's your boyfriend's domain.
I've been through hell a bunch. I've toured it quite a few times.
Say visited. She lives there. What are you talking about?
I'm excited about tonight's episode as well. Of course, we're still in the territory that I absolutely love, the dark and demonic. I love discussing these type of topics. And so tonight we're going to be talking about hell and the hierarchy of hell. We've talked about all kinds of demons, but we've never talked about the structure in which they come from. Or is there a structure? Who rules? We don't know. So that's what we're going to be jumping down tonight. So I hope y'all are ready for another dark, twisted, and demonic. Shelley, we know you are. Again, it's your boyfriend's territory, so
I know.
It's going to be like you're home away from home.
I know. Tell me all about my second favorite place to be.
Exactly. Well, before we dive into it, I'm going to say this. Yes, we're talking about a religious topic. We understand. We don't really do religion on this podcast, however, so I'm not here to debate your religion or anything like that. I have pulled from about 12 different sources. So what I'm going to tell you tonight is not the definitive end-all, be-all structure of hell. This is just a combination of about 12 different sources that I was able to look at to gain a little bit more insight and put this episode together. So if you have comments on any of that, feel free to put those in. But I ain't going to be debating nobody's religion. We'll just put it that way. Or your religious beliefs.
Hell and demons are across all cultures, so
they are.
We're not really getting into the religious like muddy water. So yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure that was out and in the clear before we jumped right in. So, well, y'all ready to begin?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, hell. Many believe it is a place of fire and torment. It is often described as a realm. It is often described as a realm where the wicked suffer for eternity and a prison of chaos ruled by nothing but pain and destruction. However, throughout history, countless texts have suggested otherwise. Hell may not be a wasteland of disorder. It may be something far more structured. Ancient grimoires and religious writings describe a system in which demons are not merely chaotic entities, but ranked figures with designated roles. Christian demonology refers to infernal princes and kings, each governing a domain of their own. Jewish and Islamic traditions also speak of spirits and entities with specific responsibilities. Occultists have gone so far as to map out an entire hierarchy, detailing which demons hold the most power and how the influence is distributed. If demons have ranks, then they must have orders. A hierarchy implies leadership, structure, and control, which raises a question. Who's truly in charge? Is hell ruled by a single entity, or do multiple forces struggle for dominance? Shelley's raising her hand. If there is a chain of command, how deep does it go, and how far on top does Shelley sit?
All the way.
Hell may not be lawless. It may be an empire built on power, submission, and control. Shelley's 3 favorite things.
Yes.
So,
there's going to be too many of those tonight.
Sorry, are you talking about hell or Mary Kay? I'm trying to figure out.
This is your what do they call it? The mother pyramid scheme,
mid-level marketing scheme.
Yeah. This is your MLMs. That's exactly what it is. Hell
infernal MLM.
Infernal MLM. That's all it is. That's what hell is. It's just a repeat cycle of MLMs over and over again. So. Well, to understand this empire, we have to look at the sources that defined it. Yes, I'm going to take you through a history tour real quick, so bear with me. The idea of a structured hell didn't form out of a vacuum. It was shaped by centuries of religious texts, occult manuscripts, and literary works that attempted to categorize the underworld's order. From the legendary grimoires that name hell's kings and dukes to epic poems that depict demonic courts, these writings offer a roadmap to the hierarchy of the damned. Some claim divine inspiration, others pure imagination, but all have left a lasting mark on how we perceive the ranks of hell. Now, for many, the idea of demons is inseparable from religious tradition. After all, what is hell without the rebellion that formed it? The earliest sources of demonic hierarchy come from Scripture, both sacred and legendary, where fallen angels are given roles, ranks, and responsibilities. And these texts provide the backbone for later demonology, shaping how the netherworld is perceived and how its rulers are imagined. Now, the Bible never provides a fully structured ranking system for demons, but it does plant the idea that supernatural entities serve distinct functions. The most infamous example, obviously, is Lucifer himself, once a high ranking angel cast down from heaven for his defiance, aka Shelley's boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Revelation 12, 7 through 9 describes a celestial war in which Michael and his angels defeat the dragon, interpreted as Satan, who is cast to earth along with his followers. This passage should suggest a chain of command where fallen angels are subordinates under Satan's leadership. Luke 10:18 has Jesus stating, quote, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven," reinforcing the idea that this was a hierarchical demotion from angelic authority to a ruler of the damned. And Ephesians 6:12 references, quote, "principalities, powers, rulers of darkness," which some interpret as a ranking system for malevolent spirits. And while the Bible does not categorize demons into an organized hierarchy, it hints at structured authority, which later theologians and demonologists would expand upon.
Now, quick question. I mean, you may get into this later on. Did they make a difference between Satan and Lucifer? Because I know some people make a distinction between the two, and some people say they're one and the same. Does it?
I mentioned, I'm going over just the hierarchy of it. I'm not
Mhm.
really debating the difference between Lucifer, Satan, the devil, and all of that. I do mention them as separate entities later on, which we can discuss in discussion as well, just based on what we know. But I do not have it in the actual story, but we can get back to that on the actual discussion portion of the episode.
Okay.
So, now, unlike the Bible, the book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish text, provides a much clearer depiction of ranked fallen angels, the infamous Watchers, or Grigori. Now, these angels were tasked with observing humanity, but defied divine law by descending to earth and corrupting mankind, leading to their eventual punishment. The text specifically names leaders among them, such as Shemazai and Azazel, showing an early form of diabolical leadership, a concept that will later appear in grimoires detailing demonic kings and princes. Now, Enoch also describes different types of fallen beings, including spirits of the Nephilim, which is the hybrid offspring of the Watchers and female humans, which I'll be getting into next episode. Further suggesting a tiered system in which some demons are more powerful than others. Now, this text, though not accepted into the biblical canon, deeply influenced later Christian and occult demonology. The idea that demons could have commanders, subordinates, and varying levels of power originates here and would be expanded in later sources. And throughout history, various esoteric texts have reinforced the idea that the forces of hell are not a chaotic mess, but an organized system with rulers, subordinates, and defined ranks. While not part of the traditional biblical canon, these writings offer intriguing glimpses into a structured demonic order, expanding upon the themes of leadership and those authority among the fallen angels. Now, one of the most fascinating examples is the Testament of Solomon, an attributed text that depicts King Solomon wielding a mystical ring that grants him the power to summon and command demons by name. Each demon he encounters identifies himself, often providing its rank domain and the affliction it causes among humans. Some demons are minor, whispering evil in the hearts of men. Others are described as rulers over legions, suggesting a structured hierarchy of demonic beings. The text paints a picture of demonic order that mirrors human governance, where higher-ranking demons command lesser spirits, carrying out their influence in the mortal world. This idea of demons being categorized and bound by authority would later be echoed in occult grimoires that sought to harness such power. Now, in Gnostic traditions, a different but equally structured form of hellish governance appears. These are all the texts that I referenced, by the way. That's why we're going over them.
So,
Go ahead.
before we continue, is that book the what is it, the Testament of Solomon you just picked up? Is that where we get the Lesser Key of Solomon, or is that a separate text?
Which I will be going into. I'll be going into the Lesser Key of Solomon. Well, specifically the Ars Goetia here in just a second. It is one that definitely, that is probably the most powerful one of how this is defined. But we're going to be getting to that here in just a little bit. I'm getting you through the ancient texts right now of where the beginning stages of the hierarchy of hell basically originated from.
All right.
Now, in Gnostic traditions, a different but equally structured form of hellish governance appears. Gnostic texts frequently describe archons, powerful rulers of darkness who exist separately from traditional fallen angels, but function in a similar chain of command. Rather than being rebels cast from heaven, the archons are often depicted as spiritual tyrants, presiding over the material world and keeping humanity trapped in ignorance. These beings are not mindless entities, but cunning overseers, maintaining strict order and control, much like later depiction of demon lords ruling over legions of the damned. This concept of a ruling class of malevolent forces would later influence medieval demonology, which sought to define which entities held dominion over others. Now, further reinforcing the idea of that ranked authority within hell is the Apocalypse of Abraham, which provides another glimpse into this accursed leadership. This text portrays Azazel, which we just discussed being part of the Grimoire, the Watchers, a name that appears in multiple traditions, as not just that fallen being, but a true ruler of hell. He is depicted as a powerful adversary, separate from Satan, yet holding dominion over the abyss. Now, this suggests that hell may not be a monarchy under a single ruler, but a fragmented empire with multiple high-ranking figures vying for control. And that idea would actually come later on into play into Renaissance demonology. So all of these, it's almost like throughout time, as we keep going medieval, Renaissance, and then the occultists and stuff, they start picking and choosing. Never, I'm going to keep my mouth shut on that end. Anyways, so these legendary texts, though diverse in their origins, all contribute to the evolving idea that demonic forces operate within a defined structure rather than existing as aimless spirits of destruction. They introduced the concept of rank, dominion, and governance. That's the importance of these ancient texts. Those are the ideas that the later demonologists, occultists, and even literary figures would build upon to create that detailed hierarchy of hell that persists in modern thought. So if these religious texts laid the foundation, then the grimoires became the blueprints. So these books did what scripture never dared. They actually cataloged the forces of hell, assigning them ranks, roles, and dominions. No longer were demons simply fallen angels or agents of chaos. They became dukes, kings, and generals, governing territories and commanding legions. These manuals of the occult, written across centuries, would define the hierarchy of hell in explicit detail. Some were framed as forbidden knowledge, detailing rituals to summon and bind demonic forces. Others were written as scholarly attempts to classify the legions of darkness. But all of them had one thing in common. They sought to name and rank the rulers of hell. So going back to what Ryan was just talking about, few grimoires have influenced demonology as much as the Ars Goetia, a section of the Lesser Key of Solomon. Yes, I do have a copy. Thank you, Linda Hillard. Now this text...
And it did come in very handy at one particular occasion.
It did. Now this text that I hold in my hand was compiled in the 17th century, but rooted in older traditions. It is perhaps the most famous attempt to list and rank the demons of hell. It catalogs 72 demons, each with a title, dukes, princes, marquis, kings, suggesting a very highly structured realm. Each demon is given a name, a sigil, and a description of its abilities, as well as the number of legions it commands. The hierarchy here is very rigid. Some demons, like King Baal, reign over entire forces, while lesser-ranked entities serve under them. What you got, Ryan?
I say so. This new text, the Lesser Key of Solomon, since it was written, we said medieval time is when it was written. It was written in
17th
the
century.
Renaissance. Okay, so is this referencing the ancient text you just went over, or is there like these people just decided to summon these things and ask them what their rank was? Like how do we get here?
Well, it's rooted in those older texts. So basically, think of it as like a building block that I'm doing for you here. You got your ancient texts, then you're going into your grimoires. We're going to go into a couple later on after these grimoires. But yeah, so this one is pulling from the older traditions that we've already discussed, and
so
they're
this is pulling
now
from the Testament of Solomon. And
they're
just ranking
basically
them.
Yes, and now they're basically going, all right, we got Lucifer, then under that we got this, and then here's his sigil and named it. Yeah, that's what this is doing here. So this text suggests that these beings have dominion over specific knowledge, arts, or even natural forces, implying that hell is not simply a place of torment, but a kingdom with its own functions and governing order. Beyond classification, the Ars Goetia also serves as a manual for summoning and commanding these spirits, with precise rituals meant to invoke their presence and bind them to the magician's will.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, I have read it. I have not utilized it. This aspect makes it distinct from religious demonology, which often sees demons as untouchable or inherently destructive. In this grimoire, there are entities to be understood, or they are entities to be understood, negotiated with, or even controlled, provided one follows the rituals correctly. Well, if the Ars Goetia sought to catalog and control demons, then the Grand Grimoire took it a step further, presenting a forbidden book of summoning rituals and infernal pacts. Yes, infernal pacts. Sometimes called the Red Dragon, this 18th century text claims to document methods of making deals with demonic authorities, particularly Lucifer, Beelzebub, and Astaroth.
It doesn't really work out that well.
The three musketeers of hell. Let's not do that. It presents hell as a structured monarchy where these figures hold power over lesser demons and enforce strict rules. This text's influence extends beyond the occult. The idea of selling one's soul to a demonic entity for power has become a lasting trope in folklore and popular culture because of this one, the Red Dragon, or the Grand Grimoire, whatever you want to call it. But beneath the sensationalism, the Grand Grimoire reinforces the idea that hell is not a lawless wasteland, that again, it has rulers and forces and consequences for those who engage with its inhabitants. Now, jump back just a second, because before the Ars Goetia was compiled, Johann, I'm going to get this name wrong, Johann Weyr's Pseudomonarchia Daemonum. Oh, I got it.
Good.
In 1577, attempted to establish a structured ranking system of hell's demons. This Latin manuscript listed 69 demons,
nice,
each with descriptions of their abilities and their status within the hierarchy. Within the Pseudomonarchia Daemonum, while the Pseudomonarchia Daemonum lacked the detailed sigils and summoning instructions found in later grimoires, it did lay the foundation for what would become a more refined system for classification. So, Ryan, there's a little bit more of your answer about where are they pulling this stuff for like the Ars Goetia and things like that.
All right.
So now what was interesting is Weyer, he was a physician and a scholar, and he approached the subject as both a believer and a skeptic. So he framed his work as a warning against the dangers of invoking these entities, yet his precise detailing of ranks and roles only fueled the interest in the legions of hell. Now, jump back forward a little bit. I had to answer your question on that just a little bit more. So jumping to medieval grimoires, fewer is steeped in legend. I'm going to get this name wrong too, as the grimoire of Pope Honorius. I've practiced that all day long because I keep wanting to say Honorius. It's not. It's Honorius. It's Honorius. This one is attributed, perhaps falsely, to Pope Honorius III. Now, this text, written in the 17th century, blends Catholic exorcism rituals with occult demonology, detailing methods for summoning and commanding the spirits. Now, unlike the Ars Goetia, which presents demons as entities to be understood and worked with, the grimoire of Pope Honorius is deeply rooted in the idea of combating and controlling the forces of darkness. Think of it as kind of like the rites of exorcism type thing. You're trying to get rid of it. You're trying to control it. It presents a hierarchical system of demons, many of whom appear in other grimoires, reinforcing the idea that a standardized ranking existed across multiple texts. So this is kind of the one that's like, oh, okay, this is how it is for everybody. Not necessarily the case, as we're kind of seeing. So, but no exploration of demon rankings would be complete without Jacques Colin de Plancy's Dictionnaire Infernal, published in 1818. Sorry to keep your face covered, Ryan, but we're going to keep...
Say his name again
You're
one more time.
You're just showing off with those names now.
No, I practice this all day. Unlike earlier grimoires, this was not a book of rituals, but this became an encyclopedia of demonology, compiling various names, rankings, and descriptions from earlier sources. Its most lasting contribution is its illustrated depictions of demons, many of which became the standard visual representation used in modern occultism. The text reinforced the idea that hell had a bureaucracy. I can get Jacques' name, but I can't get bureaucracy. Anyways, where different demons presided over different domains and functions. Some ruled over knowledge, others over vice and temptation, and some governed regions of hell itself. Now, while the Dictionnaire Infernal did not introduce new rankings, it just solidified the existing ones, making it a cornerstone for later occult traditions and even modern horror. So those are your grimoires that have helped to shape this hierarchy of hell. You got your ancient texts, then your grimoires, And now we're going to be turning them into fully structured systems through nothing other than literature. Isn't literature great?
It's fantastic.
That was my minor in college. Let's go in English. Come on.
Well, occult grimoires took the seeds of hierarchy planted in religious writings and turned them into fully structured systems. They transformed demons from abstract, formless evils into named rulers, warriors, and keepers of knowledge, each with their own domain. The hierarchy of hell was no longer just an idea. It was now documented, organized, and categorized. But these texts also still raised a question. If demons have a structured order, who truly holds power? Are they bound to Lucifer's rule, or do they operate under different systems of governance? And if power among the damned is something that can be negotiated, stolen, or usurped, what does that mean for hell itself? And this is where literature will take these questions and run with them, shaping the image of hell's hierarchy in ways that go beyond religion or occult study. Now, literature has long been a powerful tool for shaping how people envision hell, often expanding upon religious and occult ideas to create fully realized infernal realms. Of course, I think we all know the most infamous one and the most influential depiction of hell. Do you know?
Dante?
Would be Dante's Inferno. It remains the most influential depiction of hell, presenting a realm of torment that is anything but chaotic. It is also a really badass game on Xbox.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Dude, you gotta kill those unbaptized babies. It's not fun.
God. Yeah. Well, written in the 14th century as part of the Divine Comedy, Dante's vision of the afterlife describes hell as a meticulously structured place divided into 9 concentric circles. Each circle is dedicated to punishing a particular category of sin. Now, at the bottom, trapped in the frozen lake of Cocytus, lies Lucifer, not as a fiery overlord, but as a prisoner, eternally suffering under the very laws of divine justice until Shelley freed him.
Yes, you're welcome.
While Lucifer is not the ruler of this hell, the demons within it serve distinct roles. The Inferno introduced figures like Minos, the judge of the damned, who wraps his serpentine tail around sinners to indicate their placement in the underworld. Other demonic figures act as tormentors, enforcing divine justice with ruthless efficiency. This structured depiction of hell implies a well-ordered system where demons have duties, where they have ranks, and they have specific responsibilities, rather than acting as these chaotic agents of destruction. And Dante's work reinforced the idea that even in damnation, there is still order, an idea that later demonologists would attempt to categorize again in explicit detail. Now, on another hand, John Milton's Paradise Lost, can't leave this area without that one, expands upon this notion but shifts the perspective a bit. Rather than envision a hell from the outside, Milton takes readers inside the very halls of its demonic court, portraying fallen angels as strategic, organized, and deeply political beings. Written in the 17th century, Paradise Lost presents Satan as a charismatic leader, rallying his fellow exiles and establishing his own kingdom in opposition of heaven. Hell is no longer just a prison. It is a place of military and political structure, where the fallen angels form a ruling council to debate their next move against divine authority. Among Satan's closest allies are named demons such as Beelzebub and Moloch, each representing different approaches to dealing with their exile. Some favor open war, while others advocate for deception or deceit. This hierarchical system presents hell as a monarchy again. So there's this back and forth of multi-ruler and monarchy. What would that be called? A dual monarchy or more, or polymonarchy? I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking like polytheistic, and
I'm thinking like warlords more so than anything else.
Pretty much,
like it's everybody's got their own little area they have to control.
Yeah. Well, here power is distributed among various high-ranking demons, much like the structured courts of a medieval Europe. Think of when the time it was written. I mean, obviously.
So it's like they all have their own little fiefdoms, or they each have their own little area where they control.
Right. Got it. City-states. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. City-states. Well, Paradise Lost further reinforces that idea that demons, much like humans, seek power, leadership, and control. These concepts align closely with later grimoires that classify them into those ranks. And Johann Wolfgang von Goethe's Faust. I'm telling y'all, I studied these names. Goethe, whatever. Yeah, Faust.
See, Faust, one of my favorites.
Yeah, introduces another figure who would come to embody the notion of demonic hierarchy, which is Mephistopheles. Got that one too.
Mephistopheles.
Mephistopheles,
yes.
whatever. I
Yes.
don't care.
You were doing so good. It's okay.
I was. These words are so long, and the writing is so tiny.
Mephistopheles and his partner Testicles.
Yes, thank you, Ryan.
Mephistopheles, yes.
Mephistopheles, thank you. God. In this, there's so many foreign names in this. It's unreal.
Dude, I know. I get it.
I'm going to still call him Mephistopheles.
That
Whatever.
sounds
You call
way
him whatever you
dirtier.
want to.
We don't kink
Right?
shame. You do you, boo.
That word in the 16th century, in this 16th century legend, that one is not an independent force of evil, but ranked demon acting under the authority of Satan. He is a representative of hell, tasked with making pacts with mortals and collecting souls. I'm a great storyteller. I'm not a great speaker. No, I'm just kidding. His presence suggests a bureaucratic order where demons do not act solely on their own will, but serve a higher structure, carrying out infernal business as envoys and deal makers. And even beyond written texts, artistic interpretations further cemented these ideas. Gustav Dore, I'm going to go with one of the two, Dore or Dure. I think it's Dore with the little accent over the E. I think it's
I'm with you.
Dore. We're going to go with Dore. Is best known for his 19th century illustrations of Dante's Inferno, which shaped how generations would visualize the underworld and its inhabitants. His detailed engravings depicted hell as a structured realm with demons placed in defined roles, reinforcing the idea of infernal organization. His imagery of Lucifer as an immense frozen figure trapped in ice at the center of hell remains one of the most iconic depictions of the fallen angel. These literary and artistic works transformed hell from an abstract concept into a very structured world, governed by laws, ranks, and hierarchies. While earlier religious texts hinted at demonic order and occult grimoires sought to define it, literature actually brought it to life. These depictions made hell a place that felt as real and politically complex as an earthly empire. These portrayals still raise deeper questions about power and rule. Who is truly in command? It seems like nothing has been able to answer that throughout time up until now. And they're still struggling with, do these demons, are they loyal subjects or do they struggle for dominance among themselves? So
quickly, let me ask a question before.
Yeah.
We had a question in the comments that asked, where does purgatory fit into this?
That is a good question, because out of all of this, I don't think I ever saw purgatory anywhere. And thinking about it.
I think the earth is purgatory, but that's just a whole nother thing on my part. So
yeah.
That's a good discussion topic that we could do at the end. Because out of all these texts, all of that shit that I just read you off and ran you through to build this little building block of hell, I don't think there was a mention of purgatory that I was able to find. Now, I was focused solely on the structure and on the demons, so I will say that.
Right.
That's a good question. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you, Heather.
I was say, it looks like Linda says that purgatory is a state of heaven, so maybe it's on the other side. That's why you didn't see any of that. So
there you go. So, who is hell's ruling class? Now that we've gone through all these texts, all these literary works, these grimoires and stuff, what's the structure? So many people always want to know that. So, despite what fire and brimstone sermons may claim, hell is not chaos. It is structure, it is order, and above all, it is ruled. That is a belief that I have. I believe that there is a structure to it. Across centuries of grimoires, occult texts, and theological writings, one truth emerges, and is pretty evident. Hell has a hierarchy, and its most powerful figures sit at the very top, wearing crowns not of gold, but of dominion, influence, and sin. These are the kings of hell. Their authority is, and yes, I said kings, plural. Their authority is not limited to one aspect of damnation. They govern entire dominions, vast and varied. Each king embodies a core vice or force of corruption, whether it be lust, pride, wrath, decay, or deception. Their power is not confined to torturing the damned. Instead, they oversee operations that stretch into the mortal realm, manipulating not just individuals, but systems, meaning religions, governments, ideologies. Where a lesser demon may whisper into one man's ear, a king can alter the course of empires. But these rulers weren't always kings. Many of them have ancient origins, some predating even the Abraham. I'm going to stumble over Abraham.
Hammock.
Thank you. I don't
There you
know
go.
why my mouth was not wanting to say that. Anyways, Abrahamic notion of hell. Thank you, Ryan.
You're
Some
welcome.
were once angels who fell from grace during the celestial rebellion. Others were gods of long forgotten cultures, stripped of worship and recast as demons by rising religions. Their status as kings, then, is not arbitrary. It is the result of rebellion, conquest, and survival. They are monarchs forged in war. And each king rules a specific territory within hell. These aren't randomly assigned regions of torment, but carefully crafted realms that reflect the king's nature. A court of endless decadence, a swamp that rots the body and mind, a labyrinth where truth is a lie and lies become law. These kingdoms are living reflections of their rulers, and those who enter often find that the terrain itself corrupts them just as much as the demons within. Now, the structure of their armies mirrors that of a medieval court, regimented, disciplined, and vast. Some kings command hundreds, while others command thousands. These aren't chaotic mobs, but very well-organized ranks, each with their own tasks. You have tormentors, spies, tempters, enforcers. A king's influence is often felt through these agents, whose orders are carried out with precision in the mortal world. Now, unlike lesser demons who are bound by function, kings are invoked for power. Their names appear in ceremonial magic inscribed in grimoires like the Ars Goetia and the Summa Monarchia Daemonum. Rituals designed to summon them are intricate, dangerous, and demand something in return. Those who dare to summon a king rarely do so without cost. The gifts they offer, which are wealth, insight, and influence, come tethered to consequences that often unfold long after the ritual is complete. But Hell's monarchy is not unified. It is a court riddled with politics, rivalries, and shifting alliances. Kings have warred against one another for control of territories or influence over the mortal realm. Some operate with tenuous cooperation, while others are locked in centuries-old feuds. The power structure is always in motion, always unstable, and always dangerous. To be a king of hell is to rule, but it is also to reflect something fundamental about human weakness. Each one holds a mirror to mankind, revealing the forces that have always lurked just beneath the surface: ambition, obsession, decay, hunger, and the desire to reign. While Lucifer, Beelzebub, Asmodeus, and Baal are among the most frequently cited monarchs of hell, they are not alone. Other kings appear throughout demonological texts, each ruling their own domain. Payman is often associated with secret knowledge and ceremonial magic, appearing with regal procession and demanding respect. Belial, a king without loyalty, is known for lawlessness and the corruption of leadership. Person or person, I've heard it pronounced both ways, quieter than the rest, holds dominion over hidden truths and is said to walk between the seen and the unseen. Though they may not be as prominent as their counterparts, their presence within the hierarchy is undeniable, and their influence is just as dangerous. So that is kind of your definition of the kings of hell, who sit at the very top. Of course, I just named some of probably the four most common ones that people know when we start talking about kings of hell: Lucifer, Beelzebub, Asmodeus, and Baal.
So are kings considered fallen angels
Some
as well,
are.
or is Lucifer just the fallen angel that started all this?
Some of them are. Some of the other ones are considered fallen angels. Among some of the other sources, will name Azazel as a king of hell. He was also one of the fallen angels that fell alongside Lucifer. Then you have Beelzebub in some sources that fell as well. And then some of them have worked their way up as well. So you have a combination of two. It's not just fallen angels, depending on what source, grimoire, ancient text you're reading. Depends on how they got to the position that they're in. Go ahead, Ryan.
So when you were talking about how it's in a constant state of flux. Were there any texts that you read like later on where it seemed like one of them had moved up in the rankings and one of them had moved back down?
Nope.
Okay. So they maintain their rank. They just keep fighting with each other.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty much where it's at. So I believe I touch on, I may tell you wrong, don't let me lie to you, but I believe I touch on one that's lower down in the ranking that actually was at some point a king, or it might be the other way around that I mentioned later on. I know there's a rise or a fall later on in this story. But as far as I was able to find, the ones that we know, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Asmodeus, Baal. Those pretty much have been up here, the top, and they just vie
Right.
back and forth and fight and struggle with each other.
Okay.
So, though not always formally listed, some traditions include a rank of princes, not princesses, princes, just beneath the kings of hell. These figures are typically portrayed as trusted agents of the crown, powerful enough to command large territories or specialized functions, but not sovereign in their own right. When mentioned, and I say when because there's some that don't, they often serve as intermediaries between kings and the rest of the court, overseeing vast regions or leading high-level campaigns of corruption. However, their inclusion varies greatly across sources, and they're far less prominent than the next clearly defined rank in the infernal order, which are the dukes. Beneath the kings and their shadowed thrones stand the dukes, commanders of the inferno. This is where it gets real interesting to me, because you just learned about the kings. Now we're going to see how it narrows down just a little bit.
Wait a minute, time out. So,
yeah.
so Lucifer and all them, they're at the top, but they're considered the what? The kings?
Kings, yeah. That would be your kings. They are the kings. We're going to narrow the hierarchy down, basically.
Coming down.
We're
so
coming down.
there's no princes.
Based on power.
We go straight from king to duke.
There are that's why I just mentioned that. When they are mentioned, there are princes, but in a lot of these sources, prince and duke, the names
they're
overlap.
Interchangeable.
Pretty much, they overlap. When they're mentioned, they are a separate. But I'm just going to classify. So think of we're talking about the princes and the dukes at this point.
Okay.
I just kind of left the princes out because more of the texts don't separate them as a separate. They put them in with the dukes. So I'm going to just be talking. Let's talk about the princes and dukes then. I'm just going to call them the dukes. So beneath the kings and their shadowed thrones stand the dukes, commanders of the infernal legions, lords of temptation, and craftsmen of corruption. While they do not rule kingdoms of their own, they are among the most active and influential entities in the demonic order. Their power is precise, their presence often subtle, and their reach dangerously direct. In the hierarchy of hell, dukes serve as the trusted enforcers of royal will. They implement strategy, negotiate infernal contracts, and carry out the subtler tasks that kings rarely handle themselves. Their roles vary widely. Some specialize in the corruption of knowledge, others in the perversion of emotion, and many take personal pride in leading souls to ruin one step at a time. They are not mindless servants. They are refined, intelligent, and highly manipulative. Most grimoires, including the Ars Goetia, assign specific legions of demons to each duke, usually numbering between 20 and 40. These legions act as the foot soldiers, messengers, and assistants in the duke's infernal operations. Unlike lesser spirits, these are not spirits that drift. Dukes are not spirits that drift into a haunted home or whisper on the wind. Dukes are summoned through formal ritual, often invoked for knowledge, persuasion, or transformation. They are especially favored by occultists who desire control over others or influences in matters of love, wealth, or status. And what makes the dukes so dangerous is their polish. They are not monsters in appearance, at least not always. Many are described as appearing in human form, often noble, beautiful, or even androgynous. They speak clearly, answer questions, and offer benefits, though never freely. Others take on stranger shapes, appearing as serpents with human faces, flaming warriors, or crowned animals with unnatural eyes. Their true forms are layered with meaning, often symbolic of the very sins that they govern.
So they do sound like, when people describe in the Bible what angels are, they sound a lot like what an angel would present itself as. So, I mean, are they presenting themselves in that way to deceive mankind?
I think there is a deception because they are highly manipulative individuals. I say individuals, demons.
Yeah.
Yes, these are, I don't know, it's real interesting to run through the dukes.
Because how can you make a distinction? Like, if you're talking like biblically accurate angels and stuff, and you see something like this, how can you make a distinction between which is which?
Yeah.
So,
do they have to tell you the truth?
Not always. They're there to manipulate. I mean, they may tell you the truth, but maybe it's covered in, I don't know. I would say lies, but two
lies truths and a lie, right?
Yeah, basically like two truths and a lie, so to speak. Yeah, figure it out type thing.
Okay.
So, Well, dukes do not simply serve, they maneuver. Within Hell's political structure, many have ambitions of their own. They hold influence at court, advise kings, and sometimes play one ruler against another to advance their own standing. Though they may not sit on thrones, their voices carry weight, and their schemes can shape the course of infernal politics and human history. Their domains are more focused than those of kings. While a king might govern an entire concept like lust or pride, a duke may control a specific avenue of that sin, manipulating desire through speech or pride through artistic vanity. In this way, dukes are the specialists of Hell's army, fine-tuning corruption with precision rather than brute force. To encounter a duke is to be seduced subtly. They rarely demand submission outright. Instead, they offer opportunity, insight, and influence, things that seem harmless until the cost becomes clear. And by then, it's often too late. With dozens named across texts, only a few stand out in both power and historical prominence. Now, one of the most frequently invoked dukes in occult literature is Astaroth. Despite his title, he is often portrayed with a dignity that exceeds his station. Astaroth is described as a wise and eloquent spirit who speaks openly of the past, present, and future. He is said to appear as a nude man with angelic wings, riding a serpent and crowned with diadem. His appearance is regal, even divine, an echo perhaps of what he once was before the fall. He holds power over knowledge, particularly forbidden or divine knowledge, and is often invoked by those seeking truth about the universe, the origin of spirits, or the workings of heaven itself. However, he is also known to whisper lies mixed with truth, offering information that appears helpful but ultimately leads the seeker into deeper confusion or pride. Astaroth is not aggressive in his corruption. He seduces through intellect, offering clarity that can unravel a soul's foundation. And then there's Vapar, a duke whose dominion lies in the realms of water, sickness, and illustration. She is described as a woman cloaked in armor, riding atop a sea beast. Her voice like the tide, gentle and rhythmic at first, then crashing with overwhelming force. Vapar is said to govern storms at seas, control naval warfare, and inflict mortal wounds with a slow, drowning sickness that mirrors death by water. She is often invoked in matters of illusion, either to deceive others or to hide truths that should not be seen. Those who deal... Go ahead.
Starbucks is metal as fuck, dude.
Those who deal with her often find themselves in emotional or spiritual undertow, slowly losing direction, pulled towards something they cannot quite name until it's too late. And then you have Dantillion, a duke of insight, persuasion, and emotional manipulation. He appears as a man with many faces, literally. Most depictions show him with a multitude of human heads surrounding his own, each one whispering thoughts and intentions. He carries a grimoire in one hand and is said to read the minds and hearts of all humans with ease. Dantillion's power lies in influence thoughts and emotions. He can change how a person feels, shift their loyalties, or implant ideas so subtly that the victim believes them to be their own. He is often invoked by those who wish to control others or change the hearts of lovers, friends, or rivals. But this kind of influence is never clean. Those who seek it often find their own intentions unraveling alongside those they wish to control. And another notable figure is Goetia, a duke known for his ability to reconcile friends, resolve disputes, and reveal truths that are hidden or long forgotten. He is described as appearing in the form of a baboon, sometimes accompanied by a radiant aura. While his appearance may seem strange, his demeanor is wise and impartial. Goetia is a facilitator. He operates as an infernal mediator, often appearing to those who are desperate to repair something broken, whether it be a relationship, a career, or a sense of purpose. But his answers may bring clarity, and they often come with consequences, forcing the seeker to confront truths they might rather avoid. These are just a few among many. Other dukes like Vul, who specializes in love and lustful persuasion, it's right up my alley, or Murmur, who commands the spirits of the dead, further illustrate how diverse and specialized these infernal nobility can be. Each operates with precision, carrying out corruption not with that brute force, but with tailored influence, refined, deliberate, and dangerously effective. Were you going to say something?
Mm-mm.
That's just rude. Somebody said in the comment, it looks like me. That does not look like me. Okay, maybe a little. Well, beneath the dukes, the hierarchy tightens and precision becomes paramount. While kings govern realms and dukes command armies, the marquis of hell serve a different purpose. They are also specialists, refined, focused, and often underestimated. In noble courts of the mortal world, a marquis governs a border territory. The same holds true in the infernal realm. Marquis often control the boundaries between domains, between lust and love, madness and revelation, knowledge and delusion. They operate in liminal spaces where spiritual, emotional, and intellectual lines begin to blur. Their role is not to command entire legions or territories, but to manipulate finer threads of corruption, one soul at a time. These spirits are highly effective, not because of brute strength, but because of how easily they slip beneath the surface. Their influence may begin with a thought, a moment of doubt, a fleeting urge. From there, it spreads like a hairline fracture, subtle and growing until the foundation begins to break. Where a king's corruption may roar like a fire, a marquis works like a whisper in the dark. In ceremonial magic, marquis are frequently summoned for specific tasks, such as seduction, divination, uncovering secrets, or bending the will of others. Yeah, see, these are people that I just don't want to mess with.
No.
Yeah, that sounds like it just sounds like they're a big part of a whisper campaign.
Yeah, well,
Something that pops in your head that makes you doubt something or makes you upset. That sounds like they could plant the seeds of like obsession or,
yeah,
I mean sneaky little demon tightrope walker. That's what that is.
it sounds really
Yeah.
interesting to me because as we work our way down, and I say that it's narrowing because the power is getting more fine-tuned. And
Right.
they're not commanding as much, so they don't have as much, just like a regular king, in a king's court. They don't have as much power as you work your way down, so we are narrowing down on the scale of power. But it seems like the further we go down, it almost seems like to me these are the ones that you don't want to mess with because
you have the general practitioner.
Yeah.
The kings are the general
Yes.
practitioners. Now we're getting down to the specialists.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these are the ones that kind of make me a little bit more nervous, or like your dukes, your marquis, and so on and so on. So the marquis are efficient and personable, often presenting themselves in human-like form that conveys trust, charisma, and allure. So there's a little bit of that answer for you. Many are known to answer questions clearly, grant favors quickly, and offer guidance that seems helpful at first. Now, what sets the marquis apart is their adaptability. Unlike dukes, who may remain rooted in a particular vice or tactical command, marquis often blur the lines between roles. One may act as a tempter, another a teacher, a third as an assassin of the soul. They are rarely stationary and often serve as messengers or couriers within Hell's hierarchy, delivering orders or enacting plans crafted by higher powers. And yet, they are not without ambition. Some marquis, here you go, Ryan, some marquis have risen to higher stations over the centuries, either through service or manipulation. So that gives you a little bit of insight there on how some might be able to move up or down. Others serve multiple kings, navigating the dangerous politics of the infernal court with the diplomat's touch. Their loyalty is often tied to opportunity, and their true motives are rarely revealed. They are also among the most accessible spirits to occultists. Their roles make them more likely to interact with mortals, and their knowledge of human nature is particularly refined. They understand subtlety, timing, and emotional vulnerability, tools that make them some of the most quietly dangerous entities in all of hell. One of the most well-known marquis is Andros, I've heard both, a spirit who embodies discord, violence, and the breakdown of relationships. He is described as appearing with the body of an angel and the head of a raven, although he's depicted as an owl here, riding atop a great black wolf while wielding a flaming sword. His presence signals conflict, and his nature is openly destructive. Andros does not tempt or persuade, he incites. He is often called upon by those who wish to cause arguments, provoke betrayal, or bring chaos to an otherwise peaceful bond. But working with him is dangerous even for the summoner. Many texts warn that he will turn on his master without hesitation, seeing loyalty as weakness and conflict as purity. His gift is not victory, it is ruin, delivered with precision. And then there is Phoenix, a marquis with a very different tone. He is described as a great bird, often a phoenix, who sings with a beautiful, enchanting voice. When he takes human form, he appears, I didn't give a picture of him because I think we all know what a phoenix looks like.
Right.
When he takes human form, he appears as a youthful poet or artist, soft-spoken and radiant. His domain lies in art, intellect, and eloquence, and he is often associated with creativity and refinement. He is known to inspire poets, singers, and scholars, often fueling genius-level insight, but at a cost. His influence can lead to obsession with perfection. Hello. Hello, my name is Blake, and I'm a perfectionist, and I'm obsessed with being perfect.
That fine line between genius and madness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and finally, this is probably one of my favorite ones to cover. Finally, we come to Valak, a name that might sound familiar to modern audiences thanks to the Conjuring universe, where Valak was reimagined as a terrifying habit-wearing nun. That version, while chilling, has little in common with the entity described in demonological texts. According to the Ars Goetia, Valak is a marquis of hell who appears as a small angelic-looking child with wings riding a two-headed dragon. His appearance is disarming, even innocent, perhaps intentionally so, but his role is not one to be underestimated. Valak is said to reveal hidden knowledge, particularly about lost or buried treasures. He also holds dominion over serpents, commanding them and revealing their secrets. Those who summon him often do so in search of truth, answers to concealed matters, guidance in locating what is hidden, or even protection from venomous threats, both literal and symbolic. His form may not inspire immediate terror, but like many marquis, his danger lies in what he offers. Valak's answers are clear, but the paths they lead to can be filled with peril. He is a guide through the unknown, but not necessarily toward safety, like Shelley. I always say, if you see Shelley running, make sure she's running either away from it or towards
hell out of
it.
there.
Carry after
I'm
her.
usually running towards it. Yeah, I don't usually run away. That's not my jam. I go running at it.
Well, these marquis, though lower in rank, are uniquely attuned to the intricacies of the human condition. They don't often conquer, they infiltrate. Their power lies in nuance and the precise manipulation of emotion, belief, and behavior. And for many souls, they are the first point of contact, the entryway into deeper damnation. Now, as the infernal hierarchy narrows, it begins to resemble not just a monarchy or a military, but something more bureaucratic, more deliberate. Beneath the marquis, the structure shifts from conquest and influence into administration, negotiation, and knowledge. And this is where we find the presidents of hell. So we've got kings, princes, and dukes, marquis. We're now down to the presidents of hell. And we're literally walking you through the hierarchy of hell. Welcome to the episode. Though the title may sound modern, these entities have long existed in the grimoires, especially in the Ars Goetia, where they are recognized as high-ranking spirits tasked with governance over specific domains of wisdom, strategy, and control. Presidents are often portrayed as advisors, interpreters, and scholars within the infernal court. They are not generals in the field, nor rulers of vast territories. Instead, they manage details, information, decisions, and truths not meant for mortal minds. Presidents are highly intelligent and often diplomatic. Many are summoned to answer questions about the future, reveal hidden intention, or teach subjects such as astronomy, philosophy, rhetoric, and even liberal arts. While they may command legions like other ranks, usually fewer in number, their strength lies in intellect, not brute force. They frequently appear in human or semi-human form, often with attributes that reflect their knowledge or status. What you got, Ryan?
So a lot of them seem to go for the more cerebral approach versus the ham-fisted violence approach, which I find very interesting, that they're all going after your intellect versus going after anything else.
Well, you got to think of the last episode I did covering possession, basically. Think about it. They're going to try to wear you down. They're going to go after your more emotional state, your thought processes, how you think and all of that stuff. So they're not just going to come in fist swinging, like, let's do this, bar brawl style.
Right.
So yeah, they're going to
Well,
come in.
and if you come in like that too, I mean, if someone comes at you that way, you're going to fight back. But if someone very slowly works their way into your confidence, into your trust over time, you're much more likely to follow. So yeah, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Now, presidents are particularly favored by occultists and ceremonial magicians because they are viewed as more approachable than kings, dukes, or even marquis, and their tasks, while still dangerous, tend to be more transactional. Yet, despite their seemingly neutrality, they serve the same larger purpose: to lead mortals deeper into the labyrinth of infernal influence, often one well-worded answer at a time. So some of these, and there's a lot here, so I'm not going to run through every single president, in the hierarchy of hell, but some of the most well-known presidents include ones like Malthus, who is a spirit whose domain lies in construction strategy and infernal sabotage. He appears as a crow or a man with crow-like features, often speaking in a raspy, clipped tone. He is frequently invoked by those who wish to understand how to destroy enemies from the inside. But even summoners are warned that Malthus will often lie unless bound strictly by the ritual, making every interaction a test of cunning and caution. Another prominent one is Boer, a president renowned for his association with healing, medicine, and moral philosophy. He is typically depicted as a lion-headed creature with 5 goat-like legs radiating outward, allowing him to roll in any direction. A strange, symbolic form that reflects his command over complex, interwoven subjects. He can cure illnesses, both physical and mental, and is sometimes called upon to ease suffering. But his knowledge always comes at a price, because many find their fate altered in subtler, more permanent ways than they expected. The next one is Camillo, sometimes listed as Cain. He appears in the form of a thrush or as a man with a sharp sword, often surrounded by the sound of whispering voices. Camillo is a master of language, both human and divine, and is said to understand the speech of all creatures, including birds and animals. And he is frequently summoned by those who seek truth hidden beneath speech. But once a secret is known, it cannot be unlearned, and Camillo delights in revealing the kinds of truths that change relationships, lives, or identities forever. Of course, you have other notable presidents. It's Marbus, who reveals hidden causes of illnesses, Gop, who's a spirit of philosophy and emotional influence, and Valefor, who fosters trust among thieves and teaches the art of deception. There's so many of them.
Right. And you said that there was, with all of these, you were talking about how there is something that you have to give up in order to interact with these beings. Yep. You said in whichever one of the 3 we just talked about, one of the 3 presidents, you said that unless they are bound by certain parameters within the ritual, is there, and when you were researching this, did you find that there's any way for someone, if they were to do this, if they set the parameters of the ritual, would they still have to give up something to that entity that they summoned?
I think it depends on the ritual that you are using, honestly. EVP's disclaimer: don't summon demons.
Do not.
Don't summon demons.
No.
Don't do that.
No.
We don't condone summoning demons.
No.
I think it depends on the intent. There's going to be a lot. I think it's going to be the interpretation of whoever you ask. My interpretation of it is going to be, it's going to depend on your intention and the ritual that you are using and who you are summoning. I personally do not believe, this is personal belief, I personally do not believe that there is a way to interact, invoke, summon, or even control any type of demon in the hierarchy of hell without some type of price having to be paid. That is my personal preference.
With all magic comes a cost.
Absolutely. Right. And I think
you may not pay it up front, but you will pay it.
Yeah. Right. So no matter who you are dealing with or what ritual or intention you have, I believe that there is always going to be a price you have to pay.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Whether up front or in the long run. So I personally don't believe that you can keep a demon by summoning them bound to a ritual. I think they have ways around it, in my opinion, especially the higher you go up in the hierarchy. So that again, that's just personal belief on that.
Yeah, y'all leave them demons alone. Don't get shit off.
And Till, you were talking about there's a price to be paid because whatever you do, what Blake, I think, is whatever you do in magic, it comes back on you 7-fold, right? Isn't that what the deal is?
Depends on the spell. If it's 3, 7,
it's going to depend. I mean, typically you're safe at saying 10-fold, depending on what text you're reading. Again, everything's kind of up for interpretation. Some say 3, some say 7, some say 10. I typically go with 10. That's one that I found more often than not.
The worst case scenario, yeah.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah. That's why, the Wiccan read is in harm none, do as you will, and if you do anything bad, it's going to come back to you 10-fold. So it just depends on what you're reading, where it comes from. So, well, but beneath the presidents, the infernal hierarchy continues to narrow, though its structure becomes less consistent across sources. So this is where we kind of get into very muddied waters. So they don't each get their separate entry, as I've been doing. Titles like counts, earls, knights, and even viscounts begin to appear, but their roles are often fluid, overlapping, or entirely dependent on the grimoire in question. Now, by this stage, rank is less about ruling and more about execution, carrying out orders from above with precision, loyalty, and brute force. Counts, sometimes referred to as earls, are generally portrayed as military commanders or enforcers. They may escort condemned souls, oversee specific torments, or lead smaller factions within a duke's legion. Knights are often tied to combat or pursuit, seen as hunters or agents dispatched to track and influence individual targets. Servitors, or unnamed spirits, make up the bulk of Hell's working structure. Foot soldiers, messengers, or watchers operating under the direct command of higher-ranking demons, not to be confused with the watchers we discussed at the beginning, different watchers. While these lower entities rarely appear in ceremonial magic or theological debate, they form the foundation of Hell's efficiency. They are the unseen hands that carry out Hell's work, ensuring that the plans of kings, dukes, and presidents are enacted across the mortal world. Though their names may be less known and their power more limited, they are still part of the system meticulously designed to corrupt, ensnare, and endure. Now, by now, you might be wondering how this hierarchy actually works. So, if Hell is a structure like a kingdom or an empire, then how do these ranks interact? How are decisions made and how are they enforced? So let's look at the last episode I did. Let's take, for example, possession. Is often imagined as kind of a spontaneous act, a demon forcing its way into an unsuspecting soul, seizing control in a violent, chaotic instant. But in reality, at least according to grimoires and theological writings, true demonic possession is rarely impulsive. It's strategic, authorized, and assigned. Hell, after all, is a kingdom, and kingdoms operate on orders. So let's say a soul has been marked. Not necessarily at birth, but perhaps after years of exposure to vice, trauma, or spiritual vulnerability. Maybe they dabbled in occult practices without proper protection. Don't do that. Or opened themselves to spiritual forces they didn't understand. Whatever the cause, the weakness is noted. A king, perhaps Beelzebub, whose domain includes madness, pestilence, and decay, may decide that the time is right. Not just to influence, but to enter, to corrupt from within. But even Beelzebub doesn't act alone. His decree begins the process. The assignment might be passed to a duke, such as Astaroth, who is known for his deep understanding of spiritual structure. Astaroth evaluates the case, examines the soul's cracks, and identifies which spirit would be best suited to breach it. He doesn't just choose based on strength, he chooses based on compatibility. After all, the most effective possessions are personalized. A marquee may be brought in to soften the ground. Andrus, for instance, could foster conflict in the victim's home, isolating them emotionally and increasing their instability. The goal is not immediate takeover, it's erosion, a slow grinding down of defenses. Meanwhile, a presence like Valefor might influence the victim's social circle, introducing addiction, drawing them towards dangerous people, or encouraging destructive thoughts. Presidents, with their sharp understanding of human behavior, help tilt the internal scale just enough for what comes next. When the victim is finally spiritually exposed, emotionally depleted, mentally unstable, and cut off from protective forces, the final move is made. A lower-ranking demon, often a servitor or a knight, is assigned to enter. This spirit may have no name in the grimoires, no history in human texts, but it has one purpose: infiltrate. The entry is not always violent, at least not at first. It can be subtle, with dreams. Or it can begin subtly, with dreams, compulsions, or hallucinations. The victim may feel watched, hear whispers, or lose time. As the demon grows stronger, fed by fear, anger, or despair, it begins to take control. Speech is altered, behavior changes, physical symptoms may emerge, and in extreme cases, the voice shifts. Now, throughout this process, higher-ranking demons monitor the possession. If the operation succeeds, if the soul becomes fully compromised, the outcome is recorded. Hell does keep accounts. And if it fails, the spirit is recalled, punished, or reassigned. Possession, after all, is a tactical endeavor, and there is no room for error. The terrifying truth is this: possession isn't the act of a lone demon lashing out. It's the execution of a plan, a spiritual incursion sanctioned, structured, and carried out with absolute precision. It is Hell's version of a surgical strike. Now, it's tempting to imagine Hell's hierarchy as something that operates in isolation, an infernal court acting behind the veil, sending out orders like shadows slipping through cracks. But the truth is, the system doesn't function without human involvement. Sometimes we're victims, sometimes we're tools, and sometimes we volunteer. Possession is one route, but it's not the most common. More often, human beings interact with the demonic hierarchy through cooperation, intentional or not. Whether through invocation, obsession, sin, or spiritual neglect, people can enter into a kind of alignment with specific demons. In occult tradition, this might take the form of a pact or summoning ritual. In life, it can look like consistent behavior that feeds a particular vice, envy, pride, lust, until it becomes a gateway. Hell doesn't always need to take you. Sometimes it waits for you to step into place. And across history, there have been countless examples of individuals claiming to work with demons, magicians, sorcerers, cult leaders, or simply those who felt drawn to a darker force. Grimoires often list detailed instructions for summoning high-ranking demons by name, requesting favors, or learning forbidden knowledge. Again, don't do that. But what's rarely mentioned is this. The moment a request is made, it is no longer a one-sided interaction. When a person calls on a demon, whether out of curiosity, desperation, or hunger for power, they enter the system. They are cataloged, watched, and often slowly drawn in. But even outside of ritual magic, people serve the hierarchy by way of vice. Hell's structure is built around exploiting the 7 deadly sins, and each sin has spirits assigned to it, specialists who tailor their influence to fit the soul. These demons are not random, they're appointed. Someone plagued by lust may attract the attention of Asmodeus or one of his agents. A person consumed by envy may find themselves in the orbit of Leviathan, traditionally associated with jealousy and emotional torment. Wrath may draw the influence of spirits like Andrus or Marcosius, who specialize in conflict and violent disruption. Pride is often the domain of Lucifer himself, who doesn't tempt through destruction, but through ego, ambition, and self-worth. In this way, the hierarchy becomes almost surgical. Spirits are assigned not only by rank, but by function. Their orders are refined to match a soul's weakness, like a disease selecting the perfect strain to take root. The more a person leans into a particular sin, whether consciously or not, the stronger the spiritual signal they send out, and the more compatible they become with whatever spirit rules over that vice. So it's not always possession. Sometimes it's alignment, a slow, invisible partnership between a human soul and the precise force best suited to corrupt it. And often by the time someone realizes they're part of the machine, they've already been working for it. So we often picture hell as a place of chaos, an endless storm of fire, torment, and suffering without direction. But what we've uncovered tells a different story. Hell is not disorderly. It is a system built on ranks, roles, and execution. It is organized, intentional, and governed by a structure that is both ancient and precise. From the thrones of kings to the quiet influence of marquises and presidents, every demon serves a purpose. Their actions are not random. They are authorized, delegated, and carried out with terrifying efficiency. This system extends beyond hell itself. It moves through possession, temptation, and vice, often through willing human hands. And what makes the infernal hierarchy so deeply unsettling is not just how it functions, but how much it resembles our own. It mirrors the systems we've built, the ways we distribute power, and the tools we use to control. And in doing so, it challenges us to consider whether we shaped hell to resemble our world, or whether it shaped us to reflect its own. That is the structure of hell.
Very nice job. Very nice.
That's a good job. I was going to say, man, I feel like throughout history and throughout time that we have placed our governmental hierarchy on hell. If you were like, that's what I think personally. I mean, like, I don't necessarily think that the nether realm operates in a way that we can understand exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it. So I think it's the opposite. I think we put our structure on their hierarchy, I guess, is what you would say.
I think our structure came from the kingdoms of the medieval Europe. That's my thing. But
right.
It's a great question to ask. It makes you think, wait, did we structure hell after us, or did hell structure it after? Yeah, you know, who left their mark on who, so to speak.
Right.
So yeah, so what was y'all, and I should have asked y'all this at the beginning, but now that we've gone through it, what was y'all's thoughts of hell before we just sat here and listened to this for the last hour? What did you, was in your brains, was there a structure?
No, like I didn't think there was a structure. I mean, Yeah, I mean, we talk about like greater and lesser demons, like if you're like in this world and you're looking at stuff like that. I knew that, but I didn't think that there was such an intricate structure. It sounds like a lot of paperwork. So
That
And
was
the
my
paperwork
thing.
you would definitely be doing in hell because
Right,
nobody wants to
absolutely.
do paperwork.
I mean, that was my thing. I was sitting there. One of the things, like after I went through the hierarchy itself, in my brain and doing the research, I'm like, I know people are going to be sitting there listening to this episode, going, "Okay, how the hell does all this work, Blake? Like, how do you put this in motion?" And so I was like, "Ooh, I could do the last episode I did over possession." So I started putting that little flow together. And I would agree with you, Ryan. I feel like hell is a shit ton of paperwork. I feel like it's like, heaven forbid something bad happened while one of the demons are out in the field, because then it's Jerry overnight in his little hell cubicle, like filling out the hell paperwork.
Can you run me a report on this guy?
I do. I mean, I've always kind of subscribed to the hierarchy, with, of course, Lucifer, Satan being right at the top, and then everyone else that works for him. I really envision it kind of like Dante again, an English major, Dante's Nine Circles of Hell, the Inferno. Yeah, that to me. And it's funny because each of the punishments for the people who end up there seem very just. So it seems like there's a definite structure, and that's kind of the way I see it. Now, I think that there are even more, like some people say that imps are lesser versions of demonic. Yeah, mine's an asshole, but for the most part, he doesn't bother me too bad. But yeah, I've always thought of a structure with, of course, but there was one main dude, and everybody else kind of just followed his instructions. But I can see how he would have to delegate, being that there's
Right.
so much crap to get done. So
a question I would have for you, Blake, is
and I'm trying to look up an answer for you in the Lesser Key of Solomon. So.
When we're talking about, because a lot of times people interchange like Satan, Lucifer, Belial, Beelzebub. Do you think that's because maybe at the time of their text writing, that's who is in charge? Or do you think that maybe is it all one and the same? Like, what are we talking about?
No, I definitely, you can easily look up and see that Beelzebub, Lucifer, Satan, the devil, they're all separate entities. Yes, some people are going to interpret like Satan as the Latin name for the devil, which they say that Satan, I think it's adversary in Latin.
Adversary, yeah.
Lucifer is the
light bringer.
Yeah, the light bringer. God, why do I want to say shooting star? I'm sitting here thinking the
morning star.
The morning. That's it.
Lucifer, morning star.
Yes,
I was thinking of the.
He's in charge of all the vegan meats at the grocery store.
Yeah, I was thinking of the the more you know, with the shooting star going across. Anyways, yes, just in all the research that I've done on demonology alone, some people are going to tell you that they're all one and the same. I believe each one is a separate entity. Beelzebub, Satan, Lucifer, the devil. I believe they're all separate. Just go back and watch the episode that I did over the rise of the devil. That's right. It explains it perfectly, how even things like some people say that Samael is, the devil and Satan and Lucifer and Beelzebub, and so they're all separate. They all have their own kind of backstory, their own origin story, if you will. So
another question I have is, so as you're going through all of these entities that reside in hell, there seemed to be, which we know they're deceivers, so there's not any positive aspects, but there seemed to be positive aspects in what you were describing. Why do they possess those? If they're supposed to be completely evil, they're supposed to be the fallen angels, they're supposed to be the actual duality of what reigns in heaven. Why do they have these positive aspects?
Are you talking about things like where I was describing, like their charisma, their
their knowledge?
Well, because you got to think, they have to be able to tempt, manipulate, and deceive.
Right.
So a lot of that is going to play, in my opinion, into trickery. So you've got to be able to be charismatic, and you have to have knowledge of workings of how do humans work? What is human history knowledge? What is the working world? What is the mortal world? What's that realm like? So I think possessing these things, knowing that we lust after things like forbidden knowledge, how does the universe work? Are ghosts real? Things, the spiritual realm, so to speak. The paranormal, what we do. I think that they have to present themselves as those with those traits to be able to manipulate, deceive, and
Mhm.
tempt properly, to be able to get the whole point is to gain the soul, to lead
Right.
these souls down the path of corruption. How can we do that if we can't get an individual or a soul to trust us? So
Mhm.
in order to trust us, we have to appear in this beautiful human-like or semi-human-like form with vast knowledge and with charisma and things of that
Has to
nature.
adapt our
Right.
mannerisms to
Exactly.
their
Mhm.
gameplay.
Yeah. So that way,
It's
and
gameplay.
I trust me, I believe that there is the duality. I believe that there is a hierarchy of heaven, just as there is a hierarchy of hell.
Mhm.
I believe in duality of the universe. So for every good, there's evil. For every evil, there's good on
Mhm.
both
Balance.
sides. Yeah. So, but that is kind of my answer to that is they have to be able to lead souls astray. And you can't do that unless you possess
True.
certain traits that you can then use to manipulate and tempt an individual to follow you.
Yeah, and that lion-headed dude with the 5 arms, he's going to have to adapt and camouflage, okay? Because he comes rolling up to me, I'm likely to kick him like a soccer ball.
Yeah.
Because no, some furry
To-
thing come rolling
Yeah.
up at me, I'm likely to stomp on it. No, thank you.
I'm
But yeah,
probably gonna
they have to adapt these characteristics, these mannerisms, in order to blend. And until you can blend, you can't begin to operate in a system. So you have to figure out how to
Right.
work within it, and blending is
Yeah.
one of them. So I think absolutely that they have to adapt those characteristics that are very human.
Sure.
So
Yeah. Agreed. Ryan, to answer one of your earlier questions, now the Lesser Key of Saruman, the Ars Goetia is kind of one that I've read through the most, probably studied the most out of all the
Mhm.
texts that we covered. And I didn't want to get it wrong, so I went to go look it up. There are 72 chief spirits listed in this.
Okay.
But according to the Ars Goetia, the kings are Baal, Payman. I'm probably going to get some of these names wrong, and I apologize. Beleth,
Mhm.
person or person, I've heard it both ways. Asmodeus, Vinay, Balaam, Zagan, and Belial. Those are your
Okay.
kings. So
All right.
now that's according to the Ars Goetia. So
Interesting. So also too, you talk about how like if someone were to interact with these entities, they have to give something up. Is there depending on the entity, is there a specific thing that they're like wanting to take from someone who were to interact with them, or is it just all kind of across the board they want the same thing?
isn't
Some
the
do-
ultimate goal the soul?
the ultimate
Right.
goal is the soul. Always the ultimate goal is to lead them further into the labyrinth of damnation, into
Right.
taking and possessing the soul, not in the human, just taking the soul whenever the person passes. That is the ultimate goal. It can depend. I've read different stories and different texts. Again, this is so open to interpretation because there's so many theological ancient texts that are out there, literary texts even, that people believe to be truthful. Yeah, I guess it depends on what you're reading. I don't really have a solid answer for that, unfortunately. Some only seek out the soul in return. Some seek out, maybe it is to gain another soul through you. Maybe you become the
Conduit.
foot soldier. Yeah.
conduit, the foot soldier, the gatherer of souls for them. Maybe you
Mhm.
are to lead others into temptation. Some, I have read stories even that some go after physical traits. Maybe it's you get forbidden knowledge, but all of a sudden you're old. I don't know. That's prime example. That is not written anywhere.
Yeah.
That is just an example only. I did not read that some demons out there giving you
Well,
knowledge.
and some of
I
them
know
require,
everything, but at what cost?
and some of them might even require the first child, the innocent soul. As
It
well.
really just depends on what you're reading, what grimoire you're talking about, what ancient text you're referencing. Because there's so many, and there's been so many different interpretations throughout time that it's hard to really trace back what is it that they want in return.
Right.
Ultimately, I'm going to go with a safe answer.
Right.
Ultimately, it is the soul. That is the one thing that we can
True.
guarantee that they want. So that is probably your payment, no matter who you're dealing with.
You know, they probably have almost some kind of quota system because it is hell. So they'll be like, you didn't meet your quota this week, Jerry.
Damn it, Billy, you're 12 short.
Yep.
Congratulations, Mike. You get a pizza party.
He's got a clipboard. So can I put you down for one soul?
God, that would be hell.
Wait. No pun intended.
No pun intended.
Wait for us to joke and laugh about hell. Oh God. No, I truly I truly enjoyed this because whenever I started delving even further, because this is more about just cracking open my thoughts on what I kind of already have studied and learned and know, and going deeper, allowing me to go a little bit deeper in some of this study. And yeah, I didn't think that I knew that there was a hierarchy, but I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think it was as rigid as some. Now, granted, I've read the Lesser Key of Solomon, which is very rigid, but I didn't think that we were going to get down to some of the tiniest details that we did about the different branches and how they subtly influence and stuff like that. I mean, it is pretty freaking rigid.
Yeah.
So that was fun to kind of discover and add to my knowledge.
What about the city managers of hell and the city councilmen of hell? Like, who are those guys?
Where's the school board? Dang it! Is there a neighborhood watch down there? And I swear to God, there's some goddamn HOA down there.
Oh yeah, it's hell up there. Of course.
I swear to God.
And we were just given that there's a great modern reference source, the Dictionary of Demons by Michelle Balanchard.
Oh, okay.
Nice. Yeah, dude, Michelle Balanchard is awesome. I mean, that she's amazing.
Yeah,
I've checked that out.
So that was given to us as a new reference. So there we go. Thank you, Linda.
I'll have to check that out. Thanks, Linda, for that for sure. Is there different levels of hell? Again, it depends on what source you're reading.
Right. If you subscribe to Dante's Inferno, there is.
If you've read Dante's Inferno or the Divine Comedy, you're going to know that there's 9 concentric circles. That is one depiction that has survived for the longest time because thanks to Dante himself and, as we discussed earlier, Gustave Doré. I'm going to go with Doré. Just call him Doré. I don't know. Doré. His depictions of Dante Inferno's hell itself, that's just kind of been solidified in folklore across time. So again, it depends on what you're reading.
There's others that say that the first level is the fire, and then the next level is the extreme cold, and the next level is the primordial ooze that you're thrown into, just depending. And that was where some scholars, learned people say that that's your purgatory is actually back in that primordial ooze. That's your waiting place. But again, just depends on what you read.
Well, because there's some texts, ancient and a little bit more modern, maybe 17th, 18th century, that describe different territories, not necessarily different levels, but different regions and territories. Like it's one big landscape, but not necessarily different circles. So again, it just depends on what you read. There's so many.
That's why it's definitely hell.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said that at the beginning. Like, I'm not here to debate anybody's like religious beliefs or anything like that. Everybody's going to have their belief system and what they believe. Whether there's different circles that you descend down into hell, or if it's just a vast region. I have a completely different thing altogether. I believe that heaven, hell, and earth all exist on the same area, just on different realms and planes. So my thing is, I take heaven as a place on earth, literal. That's why we can still talk to our loved ones, so to speak. So it depends on who you're asking, who you're talking to. I don't know. I can't see. I don't know. I don't see hell as a basement where we get sent to for punishment, where it's all hot and bothered down there. I think that hell. I think hell exists here on earth as well. It's just in another dimension. Same for heaven. So that's kind of my take on it.
Perfect.
I think it's an open landscape with a hierarchical structure of who's in charge. That's my idea of it.
I'm in charge, and don't you forget it. And with that,
Jelly tell them right on the top.
And with that, Blake, why don't you tell them everything they need to know?
Next to her boyfriend. All right, sounds good. All right, so if you want to support the show directly, check out our Patreon page. It is going to be linked in our Linktree link tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, on our Facebook and X profiles. And for just $5 a month, you will unlock over 450 exclusive videos, including the pre and post broadcast shows, which are the 30 minutes before and the 30 minutes after this live broadcast. It also includes never before seen footage, including infamous dirty Estes methods and other fun stuff. So plus your support helps to keep us bringing these ghostly adventures to you week after week. So if you're not sure if you want to join Patreon, we do offer a 7-day free trial. So Make sure you stay connected with us. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and many more by searching Everything Vaguely Paranormal and looking for that green sound wave. I always forget to add that. Or by clicking the icons in our link tree on our Facebook and X profiles. We are still close to our next goal. Yo, I think we're under 10. We need like under 10.
Oh, snap.
Go find, if you have children, go find their phones. Go to you. No, I'm just kidding. Not children.
No.
If they're,
No.
if they're 18 and up, if they're 18 and up, sub your children. Go find your friends' phones. Go find your grandparents' phones. Because then they're going to be wondering what the hell's on their YouTube. But anyways, find us like 10 people. I think that's all we need. And we will be able to hit our goal on YouTube. So if you have not subscribed to us on YouTube, go over there and do that, please. And remember, you can also catch us live, you audio listeners, every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube. If you want to meet us in person, my God, you've got a hell of a lot of decisions and choices all over the country. May 30th through June the 1st, we will be in the DFW area for Fan Expo at the K. Bailey Hutchinson Center, along with Chad Wandell from Ghost Geeks. We are then
that's going to be trouble.
We are then going to be at Chicagoland, near Chicago. I can remember exactly where that's at. We will update you on that on June 7th. That is when we will be up near Chicago. So come out and see us for that. Then we were going to the Paranormal Rockdown at Broadhead Manor in Broadhead, Wisconsin on July 18th and 19th. Then we are going all the way over to Gettysburg Battlefield Bash from July 25th through the 27th in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Then we are back in Kansas City for the KC Paracon on August the
Second.
No, I'm looking right now. I'm going to August the 2nd. We will be back in Kansas City for that one. Then September the 3rd through the 6th, we are driving 19 and a half hours all the way from my house to Vernal, Utah for Phenomicon 2025. And finally, we will be attending the Rock Island Roadhouse Esoteric Expo on October 4th in Rock Island, Illinois. And we still have a couple more that are yet to be confirmed. So we're going to be all over the country from West Coast, North, South, wherever you can find us. Come out and see us.
You're going to have to buy a new car.
But make sure you subscribe to our Eventbrite page to be notified when public investigation tickets go on sale, because we are about to start posting those. I had a meeting last week. We got confirmed on a couple of other locations. We promised. We told y'all it's coming. It is coming. Thank you for being patient with us. As you can tell, we've had many Paracons that we've had to figure out and get on the calendar first. So we are grateful for your continued support. Every like, comment, share, and download keeps the adventures alive. So if you have a favorite episode, share it with your friends and make sure you tag us. And if you have a story, comment, or question, or would like to have us on your podcast as guests, email us at the evppod@gmail.com. That is THEEVPPOD@gmail.com.
Go like, share, and subscribe to that YouTube page. We're only just a few away. Please go and do that.
Absolutely. All right, y'all. Well, thank y'all for joining us for another weekly episode of Everything Vaguely Paranormal. As always, I am Blake Smith. And for my partners in the paranormal, Miss Shelley Pruitt, Mr. Ryan Roberts. And as always, we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.